Hopefully some good series to come. To be honest with you guys, the first round usually isn't that impressive, but second round, a little bit more. Third round, a lot more. And by the fourth round, it's all professionals that you've seen time and time again at the GSL. So that's when it gets really, really cool. But Dream versus Dynamite, still going to try and make something out of this, but it might not actually be a lot, if I'm telling the truth. I'm just glad that we have a game immediately, and I don't have to shoot the shit with you guys on a 2-minute delay. That's always nice. In the top left is the blue Terran. He is Dream. He's dreamy. In the bottom right as the red Terran, it is Dynamite. So both Terran players, TVT, can be a very, very brutal matchup. Especially if you go for a gas second here. Gas first, incredibly common. Either you want that faster factory off that one rack expand, or you're going to be making a lot of Reapers anyways. And then a factory. But if he gets a second gas pretty quickly, it could just be a factory expand anyways. Dream to go for a gas first into a second gas geyser, so gonna be a factory expand. At the very least, Dynamite is not doing something weird like a gasless expand, which actually works on a couple of maps. Ones that are not Reaperable, or you can block the Reaper hop up anyways. But no, it's actually, it's always with a gas second. I don't personally know this build, and I haven't paid enough attention, but now I will be. I guess this is with a gas second. So the double Reaper opener, but not proxied, you know, obviously. You don't get as fast as second command, or second barracks. You also do not get as fast as second command center. But you don't get as fast as second barracks as you would if you were proxying. Obviously, the Reapers don't get over here fast enough. And yet you still have the potential to really surprise and bop someone who is 1x expanding. If you're going with someone who's factory expanding, it's less likely to happen. And this is definitely a factory expand. So, Dream is not going to be able to see this. He was blocked out very early on. That's a playbook actually coming down super quickly. You can already kind of compare and contrast to his own build and kind of see like what it is or what it definitely isn't. Reaper fight goes in favor of Dynamite, actually, as the SCV does its job soaking. Dream also had the same idea in mind, but his Reaper, oh my god, that should get really close. His SCV was a little late to the party. Sup, nerds. Alright, Command Center's on the way. So this 2 racks goes into a 2-1-1 fairly well. He actually committed barely anything to the 2 racks Reaper portion of this. I mean, you can go all the way up to 4 Reapers if you wanted. Don't usually go more than that, just because like the timing of those 2x Reapers to make 6, like, there's usually a lot of stuff available for the other Terran player, but nope, just the 2. This will also, it could have also provided him some defense if it was actually a proper 2 racks by Dream, but you know, we know it wasn't. He's gonna get in here, get some scouting, see that it is a factory expand, starport's only on the way. And so I was saying about this build, you can go into a 2-1-1, like literally the very close to the TVZ 2-1-1 that we all know. But most of the time, you're gonna be adding on that factory tech, actually building from the factory, just because the early game of TVT is so dependent on these individual high-tech units like a tank, Cyclone, Raven, right? That it's really difficult not to get those units. It's possible, but it's difficult. So, could have gotten a faster stim. Not going to happen in this game. Is adding on a Cyclone. Dream actually went for a lot more Reapers. He lets the Hellion die, but the Reapers, oh, they barely survive. Cyclone gets a lock on. We'll get one of the Reapers. That was a pretty perfectly popped Cyclone. And, ooh, I'm actually going to go into some Cyclone upgrade here. So, probably mech from here on out for our boy Dream. Dream, a very established professional player at this point. I don't think I really have to go into detail about him. He just has come back after a, well, I mean, after going to the military, I'm pretty sure. So he is kind of in that group of well, especially Terrans. I don't know what the coincidence is about Terrans coming back, but of people coming back from the military and trying to get their feet underneath them. Dream just never really got to the heights of like a Tasia or a Bomber, so it's sometimes hard to remember. But when he came back, he really came back with a vengeance. I mean, once he started participating in online tournaments again, he looked really good and brought some new ideas to the table. I'm mostly salty he stopped making bunkers at the third base against Protoss. That's mostly what I'm thinking of, but he stopped doing that. I'm sure he learned at some point from other professional Terrans, like it's really not worth it, or whatever happened, I suppose. But anyways, he's kind of settled into being a good Korean Terran, which means he's great compared to 99% of other people, but Korea, that's a hard market right there. Dynamite is like 1, maybe 2 tiers below. Not to be harsh, just to be truthful. Dream is, I mean, he could be a contender for round of 16, maybe a round of 8. I mean, maybe if he's really on top of things, a round of 4. I doubt it, though, but talking about GSL here. Dynamite, ooh, he'd have tough troubles, totally a phrase, of actually getting into the round of 32. He'd be second Code A. So, just to give a overview of kind of the almost David versus Goliath thing happening here. I don't know if it's that severe, but it should be very difficult for Dynamite. That said, Dynamite does have a proper start to this game. He's got a 3rd CC. He's up 4 workers. He has Stim already on the way. Of course, Dream does not because he's going into a factory mech build. But Dynamite has got that solid start that could lead to a solid mid game. And he's even going to go for something a little bit risky, but could have some decent payoff here with a double drop 2 tanks. I actually don't generally like the double drop with tank priority on it. Especially as it gets later into the game. Well, actually, at like any point, I should say. Early game, I don't think it's that great. At this point, I'm really not sure it's going to be that great. Simply because you can try and get a concave of, well, generally Marines, but not this case, right? On top of those tanks, and not, you don't make them, they don't look as good as you would think, I guess is the best way to put it. This is turning into a bit of a base trade, so my point's all, like, null and void anyways. There aren't any Marines get a concave on these tanks. There aren't a lot of units in general, as Mech doesn't produce a ton of units. It produces few very important units. But an SCV pool actually makes this maybe okay. The Vikings can land on top of the tanks. The Marines actually get killed by the tanks, his own tanks, more than the SCVs, that's for sure. But the tanks will actually survive, just barely. No tank, don't do it! Dynamite's 1 tank barely survives there. Dream, though, having done a lot of damage on this side of the map as well. I believe he also got that 3rd CC, so we're talking about almost close, almost even workers. But a 3rd CC went down compared to all 3 orbitals living here for Dream, and Dream finally does clean that up. That got super duper messy. Dynamite's going to continue up with the pressure. He does have those faster reinforcements. He has the mobility. He's the bio player. He knows that for now, for sure, now that he's seen all the factories. If you didn't already know about the Cyclone lock-on, but he's got to keep up the pressure. I actually think this is the best idea he can have, especially as he kind of gets some scouting done here. He sees no push to the middle, he sees no push to the left, and he even kind of sees no push to the right with a Raven going for some harassment. So he knows that there's an opportunity for him to take control of the map, even if he can't necessarily do a ton of damage. Unfortunately, that tank does get bopped by the tank in the natural, but the Marines jump on top of it. So a tank for a tank, and this holds on a little while longer. And then the attack on the right side going pretty well here. Dynamite even has +1 attack on his units. He was a little late to the combat shields with everything that was going on, but he's getting a lot more SCVs, and Dream is going to have a lot of difficulty splitting up his units. These aren't a lot of units for either party. It makes it very, very odd, but if everything was consolidated together, then, you know, obviously things are going to be cleaned up. The question is what those things actually did before they were cleaned up. So left side was cleaned up, right side was cleaned up. Took a little bit longer than maybe you would have hoped. But kind of, you know, 11 SCVs going down, is that actually enough? It's enough to equalize the workers, but Dynamite, again, lost that 3rd CC. He needs more than just equalizing the workers. He actually needed to do either like 20+ worker damage, maybe even 30+ worker damage. So basically all of Dream's workers. Or actually kill the 3rd CC in retaliation. And even that might not have been enough, just because of the way the pacing will go. The tanks might still be alive, and Dream might still be able to get a decent defensive setup. But anyways, he didn't kill 3rd CC. And that's the most important thing right now. Viking doesn't even grab an SCV there, so a bit of a waste. But that 3rd CC is on location building. It's still got nothing on the SCVs already mining from 3 bases for Dream. Dream does see the drop trying to go into the main base. He's already responding. A couple units in the natural look like they got a handful of SCVs. More than a handful. This tank, again, probably helping the opponent more than its allies. Auto turret's going to demolish anything that drops out of that medevac, and the medevac itself will go down. Dynamite is... I mean, he's doing something that would be very appropriate for Bio to do, but Bio would also want to be either on equal workers and bases, or they'd very much so like to be on more workers and bases with a ton of production. So this is usually the key moment for Bio to really jump ahead, make the mech player sweat and feel very uncomfortable. And while that did happen for about 2 minutes here, I think it's really starting to taper off. Dream now has double upgrades over his opponent. He was thinking about going for that drop, but that did not work. Nuh-uh, no thank you. He's gonna have to think of another plan here. I mean, he still has made it so Dream hasn't felt comfortable enough to get, like, mass missile turrets, right? And only just now affording a sensor tower, even. He's a... Okay, my cat's trying to steal my tea. What the... Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why? Why do cats find new ways to bother us? What was I talking about? I don't know. Something about StarCraft. Double Hellbat drops and about to be Blue Flame is going to send us back to the beginning of Heart of the Swarm. If Dynamite's not careful, just boom, instantly 20 SCVs gone. Earlier today, I had a nice tiny little steak that I got. And I, like, you know, there was that line of fat around the side, so I cut it off. And Ziggy was watching me, of course, because he always watches me when I eat. But all the steak was gone, so I didn't really worry about it. And then the little sucker, could snipe in the medevac. The little sucker actually went underneath my monitor. He was like on the other side of my monitor. He snuck underneath it with his tiny little head and snatched a piece of, like, just pure fat. And that actually really scared me because he probably couldn't chew it. And he's dumb enough and desperate enough. He's so hungry all the time to have tried to swallow the damn thing, and that really concerned me. I did that thing when you're, like, scared your child's gonna die, so you accidentally yell at it, but then the child's like, what did I do wrong? And you're like, okay, I can't explain what was wrong to a cat, but I'll try. That was me. Thank you, Alaska Winter 923 for the 7-month resub. This game has kind of normalized. It's certainly normalized, but it hasn't really evened up. Unfortunately, Dynamite unable to make up for his 3rd CC loss. Unable to actually push the mech player in that ever so important mid-game, has fallen behind in supply and in momentum, and that point where you, like, you know, maybe they don't have a lot of SAG defense if you do get, like, an amazing mass doom drop is kind of over now, and Dream should be feeling very, very comfortable, but Dynamite really stuck it to him. When I was talking earlier about the two players and their respective skill levels, it wasn't to, like, try and size this up as, like, a professional Korean player versus a Masters 2 player. Like, not at all. Dynamite is GM. He's pretty high GM. He's certainly showing some very good things in this game. Macro, micro decision making. It's a game that you'd see if Innovation makes any mistakes, probably, right? But when it comes down to, like, talking about the professionals who get to the top 16 of the GSL and don't, tiny things really end up mattering. And that's the big difference between them. So Dream, you know, he's actually getting a little overzealous maybe on the Hellbats, but it doesn't matter. Somebody in the backside got obliterated. Dream, while he might have sweat a little bit in this game, I don't think he'll actually have a problem in the series. But damn, if you don't give a lot of kudos to Dynamite for making this look, well, actually in his favor for a hot second. For 1 second, it was like, oh, did he take the favorable position? No, he didn't actually, but it looked that way for a second. Oh, Liberators being added on are almost like a insult to injury thing, you know? It's usually the bio players desperately pumping out some Liberators to try and get that air control. Yeah, nope, not gonna happen this game. And it looks like Dream was even considering the possibility, like, what if Dynamite was actually holding up 7 starports and 50 Vikings? And it's gonna get some Thors here. It would be the safe move. Creates a wall against the very desperate run-by counter. I don't know what you call such a small group of units. They didn't even really need to. Dynamite gonna try and take some last-minute fights, but not even using this. Oh, that's mostly SCVs, actually. Not even using that pocket of units. He is truly desperate. All he did was send a 3rd CC floating. And I don't think he killed that many SCVs. He doesn't know there's a 4th base. There's actually a 5th base as well. Dynamite's... Nah, he ain't coming back from this one. GG. And that helped to wake me up a little. Just a little, though. My cat was trying to steal the tag. And I was like, what if he had actually taken it before I noticed? He'd just be like dragging wet tea around my room. Cats. But if I didn't have them... didn't have them, I'd be completely alone in quarantine. Alright. Game number 2, lickety split. In the top left as the blue Terran, it is Dream. And in the bottom right as the red Terran, he's Dynamite. And he is one of the few players to actually like bring it to a professional who's not actually some ex-professional himself. Like, so many of the guys come up in the scene actually were like on Kespa teams in Pro League. It's just that they didn't really shine. They went to military and then some, you know, took a very long extended break. Literally stopped playing in tournaments, but didn't actually stop playing, something weird like that, you know. To have someone who actually like really wasn't a professional player, although I think Dynamite was on teams. Yeah. To have someone who was never a professional player and actually coming up in the Korean scene kind of doesn't exist. And if it does, there's actually a lot of suspicion, unfortunately, around it. There's been at least 2 situations I can think of that has happened in the past, where there were, you know, there was 1 or 2 guys who... Maybe they're the same person. Maybe there was someone we know who wasn't supposed to play StarCraft. Like, not saying anything. Who might have been masquerading as a new Korean hopeful. And after very minimal digging, basically just asking them to confirm an email or a PayPal or whatever, they bounced. And it was all like, okay, what? Like, what? Who? Huh? Quay? So yeah, it's very rare, and it is so rare it's actually a little suspicious. When you see, like, you know, Joe Schmo, whatever the Korean version of Joe Schmo is, I guess, like, Kim Schmo? I don't know. But actually beat, like, Solar in, like, a finals, you're gonna be like, okay, like, who is that? Ah, okay. Anyways, yeah, I think Dynamite's been on a couple teams, but very much so like on that B team. And he's also never been fortunate enough, I think, to really join a foreign team that's been willing to pay for his travel anywhere. So that can definitely be a way that some players actually make a name for themselves. But I don't think it ever happened for Dynamite. But he seriously showed some pretty good TVT. I mean, that was good macro and micro through a very heated, stressful scenario, which is just the extra impressive part of StarCraft. Everyone, well, almost everyone can do a build order when there's no pressure, but to execute everything as well as make the proper decisions when you're being, you know, bombarded, that's difficult. So Dynamite really showed some good TVT in that last game. He did have a bit of an odder build order that didn't really amount to very much. In this game, he's going for something a lot more typical. Just little scuffles of the units they both have. Faster starport? Just delay a little bit for Dynamite. And Dream is already on his way to a Cyclone. Oh, God. Okay, that's actually getting a little bit scarier than I thought it would. There's the Cyclone. Locks onto a Reaper. It can get a little scary if every single unit here is, like, very healthy. All the Reapers, all the Hellions, jump on top of just a Cyclone. That Cyclone can't actually take that beating, but it had the high ground, it had some SimCity, it had a couple of buddies to help it, and it was all good. It was all good. Reaper gets in for a scout. I mean, kind of already saw everything that was going on, but maybe you can get in the back and see a fusion core. That can't happen. Medevac is on the way for Dream, so going to provide some pressure to his opponent with units you usually wouldn't see as being something you could pressure with. Double Cyclone? But yeah, you absolutely can. And if your micro is really good, it can be kind of devastating. If it's not, or they're prepared for it and they get a lock on with their own Cyclone instantly on the medevac, it can get really dangerous really fast. So we'll see how it goes. Just gonna get some scouting / poking down on the front. Here comes the medevac with Marines, actually. So not going for the double Cyclone drop. We're going to try and drop on top of a tank, and then the Cyclones can jump on top of that. Ah, he's going to elevator. Okay. I was going to say, I was expecting more of the drop in the main, but it's everything that he has. There's the lock-on the medevac. Dynamite would like to do that, but he also would have liked to have any units helping his Cyclone. That auto turret just 5 seconds earlier would probably mean the death of that medevac. As it is, though. Oh, he doesn't want to lose his Raven for this. Oh, gosh. The Raven for the Cyclone would not have been worth it. But, oh, I don't know about Dream committing to this. This is one of those scenarios where, yeah, the Marines could target fire the medevac, or alternatively, the Cyclone just can't hold up to the amount of units like I was talking about earlier. So that was a little bold there from Dream, and he's still being bold, but he wants that high ground vision. Just a single tank is actually not that dangerous, and Dynamite knows that. He's going to just move his tanks forward, let his Marines die to this. But with the Marines dead, the drop now goes back into the main base. Just kidding. Tank actually was in range. That doesn't even look right. That doesn't look right at all. Like, that looks so far away. But it was in range. And what was a bit of fanciness is kind of slapped down. Some English guy had, like his English tea and his pinky out, and Dynamite just, like, slapped it away from him. Dream's got to stop being so fancy. Stop it. Stop it. Don't you get this Raven. Don't you dare. Oh, my God. The English guy picked up his teacup, rearranged his ascot, took a metal gauntlet out of his pocket, and slapped Dynamite right back. Damn. This medevac should have died ages ago. What the hell? Stop.
Hostile forces detected.
No.
Arming raid defenses.
Thank you very much, Coltern, for that host. The medevac continues away because there's like no Marines on the ground to kill it. Are you real, Dream? And of course, behind this, Mr. knows how to macro. He actually slept a little bit, but still, way less than most of us would have. That's for sure. He's trying to get all of it. He's actually like very noticeably slipped in his macro, but that was so much micro. There's no way he would have had everything going along swimmingly back at home with how much he was dedicating to that pressure. I don't think anyone could have done it. Someone's gonna say Mario, and I'm gonna be like, maybe. But yeah, just whenever you see all the production structures, right, being placed down at once, it means the Terran was banking like 600 minerals. But he does get everything running, and he is going to get his third CC on location, and he is going to keep his minerals low from here on out, and still continue to harass with a Raven. We're kind of past that point where either one of them could have been going for like a double Raven tank push. Like it's just so past potentially normal TVT that while Raven harassment can actually be incredibly dangerous to do. The Raven dies, or the Raven's not at home when the push actually comes, and they have their Ravens, right? In this case, it actually makes a ton of sense. There's also no Vikings out, and they both are not even committing to any Vikings whatsoever, despite both being harassed by Ravens. Just going for the medevacs. The Dream, well, he slipped a little bit on his macro. So did Dynamite, having to defend as much as he did. He doesn't have as fast as Stim or 1-1, and they are about to butt heads in the middle of the map, but Dynamite certainly has a lot of tanks. Dream might have thought about engaging on that, but without Stim, especially, I think that was a bad call, and his Raven was just going to be a little bit too late, I think, with a couple interference matrix. So that was a good pullback there. Dream still has all the advantages I was talking about, which also means that he should have faster combat shields. And Dynamite has placed himself so far forward that he has to retreat back up the ramp to actually protect his third CC. That was a little bit scary there. If there was a big pickup, that would have been fast enough. But as it is, Dynamite is going to be able to protect all 3 bases, get his upgrades also finished, I think, before anything really happens. It's just so difficult to break that high ground with the ramps here on this map. Ooh, he wants it. He wants it. He's not going to get it, though. Ooh. He wants the Raven. He wants the Raven. He wants the Raven. This actually is so odd. Dream taking a lot of damage from that single tank on the front line, but then Dynamite willing to give up a handful of Marines just for the chance of that Raven. Neither one really getting any advantages there. Combat shields, just seconds faster for Dream with how close they are to engaging, could actually be an actual difference here. 10 seconds usually not a big difference, but in this game it absolutely could be. There's not a lot of Marines here for Dynamite, so even though he gets a chance to jump on top of the tanks, he actually... okay, that was a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be, but Dream has a lot of army coming from the left side. He has interference matrix 3 out of 4 of the tanks for Dynamite, but the interference matrix is now gone, but the focus fire is still on the tank or something like that happened. I'm not sure. The Marines actually get to collapse in on top of Dynamite's tanks themselves. The medevac also will go down. The Raven went down, and Dynamite... he does go down a little bit in that supply, but he could probably still hold on. His tank's actually getting some decent shots here. Some fancy micro once again to take out the tank with minimal losses as Dream sees an opportunity to continue pushing, and he definitely has one. Dynamite, that was one of his last tanks. He's about to have another one in about 5 seconds here, but not right now, and he needs it right now, or he needs about 12 more Marines to actually get a concave on top of these tanks. He doesn't have either one of those. Dream is going to find a brutal position, continuing to leapfrog forward while Dynamite can't do anything about it. He's actually going to try and grab this tank, pick it up with the medevac. That tank is so important to holding this. And he should actually repair it as well. Take a couple of the SCVs, oversaturated anyways, and repair that tank. He does start his 2-2 while all this pressure is happening, but he's missing out on the +1 tank attack. He's going to go for the big drop in the front. He doesn't think Dynamite has enough army to take it down, and he might be right about that. The concave's good for Dynamite, but the tank does go down despite the 3 SCVs repairing. But reinforcements come in. That might be enough. No, it is not. And now Dynamite's at half the army supply. That tank on the low ground was also there to make sure to anchor any attempt to push forward, and it worked out very, very well. Dynamite's going to be losing control of his third CC. He's going to try and jump on top of a tank. He does manage to grab it, but now his tank is all alone. And Dream, just with that little better macro, little better micro. It's so tiny, but it obviously makes a big difference in the last minute of the game when you're forced to tap out. GG. That was still a fun CVT. Yeah, I think that was a very good series to show, as Jonas Pew Pew says it, what separates the pros from the pretty dang goods. Yeah. Say so. But still want to give a lot of kudos to Dynamite, because towards the end there, you're like, oh, of course Stream won. Like, whatever. For him to almost keep up with that in a very, very heated TVT, that wasn't just like, oh, wow, he kept up with nothing happening. Like, nah, there was a lot going on. I was impressed by that.